with the upcoming 2.0 update for ZenlessZoneZero, a new standard S-rank selector is on the way, available for both new and veteran players. While many of us may already own some of these standard S-rank agents, however, choosing wisely is still very important, as otherwise your account may sometimes feel stuck or may even be unable to complete content. And now, whether you're looking to unlock a new team composition or to strengthen a favorite character with a powerful Mindscape, with this, today I'll be breaking down the top agents to pick, as well as which Mindscapes offer the most impactful upgrades overall. But without further ado, let's get into it. For those who watched my last video about the standard selector from 3 months ago, my original ranking was roughly as follows. Rina is the top choice for most players thanks to the value she gains from her M1 and also because of her buffing. Kaleda and Lycone shared second place because of their strong dazed focused kits. Grace and Soldier 11 were placed at third thanks to their values as an Electro sub DPS support and their role as a fire DPS character. But finally, Nekomata was the last and landed at the bottom of this list due to her lower damage output and the higher setup requirements compared to other agents in the game. That said, many changes have taken place in ZenlessZoneZero since I made that list. These updates have come in the form of new agents and endgame content, all of which have significantly transformed the game. On top of this, with more players now owning a wider variety of standard S-rank agents, the importance of choosing the right Mindscape has also become even greater for those who want to get the most out of their current teams. Now, with Season 2 just around the corner, it's also important to consider how some of the agents in the selector might synergize with the upcoming characters. While Yixuan remains a bit of a mystery since both her element and role are entirely new, Jufufu and Pan Yinhu have already been revealed as a fire stunner and a physical defense agent respectively. This gives us an early hint and context for which existing standard characters might pair well with them, helping us make smarter choices with the selector. On top of that, balance changes are on the horizon, including confirmed buffs for several agents, with the most notable being Ellen Joe. With these adjustments, it's very possible for the meta to shift and even make agents like Lycon even more valuable than before, especially if they start to pair better with new or recently improved characters. But at the end of it all, here are a few considerations for who may gain value specifically with everything announced from 2.0. First, I can see Kaleda or Lycon as decent pairings alongside Jufufu to round out a Hugo team composition. But since there were many who skipped Hugo with the announcement of Yixuan and 2.0 coming soon, this exact value is less certain. Despite this, with us receiving another buff/utility agent with Panda, this may still make taking a stunner like Kaleda or Lycone a good idea. This is because the buffing plus daze from my Panda plus stun team sound very effective. But as always, we'll need to see how relevant Panda's healing and other buffs like his sheer force buff really is. With the rerun banner announcement in 2.0, there's now a valid argument that Rina may also lose value as a potential pick, and this is primarily due to Astra and Caesar making a return in this version. Realistically, Astra, Caesar, and the freely available Nicole are among the most widely used buffers in the game, and as a result, Rina might not see much use, especially if the upcoming content doesn't favor electric units. However, a counterpoint to this is that securing Astra and Caesar requires pulling for 2 whole limited supports during a brand new version that has Yixuan, which many players really might not be willing to do. Because of this, Rina now comes with more clearly defined pros and cons compared to before, and as we'll explore in the Mindscape section, making your choice with the selector this time around won't be nearly as straightforward as it might have been in the past. Next, let's now break down each standard agent's first and second Mindscapes, as these are some of the most common breakpoints you'll reach with the selector. Starting with Rina's first Mindscape, this extends the duration of her pen ratio buff by an extra 5.5 seconds before it returns to her, and this also amplifies her core passive by 130%. Now, as mentioned in my selector guide earlier, this is an extremely powerful upgrade, not just because of the increased pen ratio, which is of course very helpful, but also because it eliminates the need to constantly swap Rina in every 7 to 8 seconds just so you can maintain and refresh her buff. Her second Mindscape, on the other hand, is not nearly as insane. When Rina enters onto the field, she gains a 15% damage boost for 12 seconds. But all things considered, since this can be activated every 18 seconds, the uptime on this buff is fairly solid. However, as you might expect, Rina's personal damage output is not as impactful as you'd think, especially compared to what she brings to the team buff-wise. Because of this, her second Mindscape isn't particularly impressive. Next, let's talk about Grace and her first Mindscape. This is a solid upgrade among these standard characters, significantly increasing her overall utility, and with this, it allows her to generate 0.25 energy for the entire team each time the fourth hit of her base basic attack lands on an enemy. Now, although this is only up to a maximum of 2 energy per use, her 4th basic attack is something she uses frequently so that she can utilize her core passive. In simpler terms, Grace helps recharge your team's energy much quicker, greatly improving the flow and pacing of combat. Grace's second Mindscape is a fantastic addition for anomaly-focused teams, and whenever she hits an enemy with her grenade, whether it's through her basic attack, special attack, or EX special, this will reduce the target's electro resistance by 8.5% and increases their anomaly buildup rate by 8.5% too. Now, to be clear, although these effects only last for 8 seconds, this is amazing for any electric team that has her on it. However, as you might have also imagined, most electric anomaly-based teams currently use agents like Yanagi instead of Grace as their main focus, so this is yet another pro with a definitely tied con. Soldier 11's first Mindscape offers a solid quality of life improvement, but its long cooldown limits its overall impact compared to other agents' upgrades. Additionally, whenever she enters the field with less than 40 energy, her energy is instantly recovered to 80, allowing her to unleash more damage right at the start of combat. However, the main downside of this is that it can only trigger once every 50 seconds, which means its usefulness heavily depends on the type of content you're facing and how long the encounters last. With Soldier 11's second Mindscape, the buffs provided by this are definitely more noteworthy as they do directly increase his overall DPS. To be more specific, however, when she triggers fire suppression, her basic attack, dash attack, and dodge counter damage are increased by 3% per stack up to a maximum of 12 stacks. Additionally, while each stack lasts 15 seconds, there is something also worth mentioning about this value here. Now, despite this sounding like a massive increase at max stacks, this does not necessarily provide nearly as much damage as you'd think, since it does take time to stack this effect. But as always, it is still helpful, especially if you're in need of additional DPS for your main damage dealer. Regarding Kaleda's Mindscapes, we have the following. Her first Mindscape boosts her overall days output by 15% whenever she uses her EX special or a special attack following her second or fourth basic attack. But in short, this upgrade really just enhances her stun potential, making her even more effective than before. Aside from its obvious effect, however, it is worth noting that this improvement to days does only come after using a second basic and an EX special, and consequently, this means that performing 2 hits as opposed to the full basic combo will be ideal. What's more than this though is that it's incredibly important to time her basic and EX sequence, otherwise you will miss out on the added value from this Mindscape. Moving on to her second Mindscape, this shares a similar drawback to Soldier 11's first Mindscape, having its long cooldown limit its reliability. That said, this Mindscape provides Kaleda with 60 energy every 45 seconds, assuming she first uses her EX special on an enemy. Now, while this energy boost is definitely noticeable, the 45-second cooldown also means that it typically only applies a few times per fight, making this a Mindscape that really needs a bit more context and details and some prior planning before you can really evaluate its true effectiveness. Let's continue now with Lycon. When Lycon's EX special hits an enemy, it gains a 12% increase to its days effect, with the buff able to trigger once every 8 seconds. If the EX special is fully charged by holding EX before release, the days boost is further increased by an additional 10%, making it even more effective at staggering enemies. With the second Mindscape, Lycon also gains improved energy regeneration, and every time that he stuns an enemy or triggers a squad member's chain attack, he also gains 5 energy too. Now, this can only occur once every second, but this is less of a restriction, and honestly, it's just nice that this allows him to cycle his EX special more consistently and contribute more effectively in combat. Now, to summarize, his first Mindscape is great for a general increase to stunning, but his second is great for generating more energy as a whole. As a side note, changes like this to a support/buff type character is always a bit more difficult to evaluate or calculate, but keep in mind that the energy and the days definitely helps, especially in the Miyabi Lycon Sokaku team that's begun getting more popularity. To wrap up the Mindscape section, we finally have Nekomata, and her first Mindscape is a great buff to her underwhelming damage output. This allows her to ignore 15% of the enemy's physical res when performing a back attack, and on top of this, if she hits a stunned enemy, all of her attacks are treated as back attacks, letting her consistently benefit from this damage boost during these stun windows. Finally, for her second Mindscape, whenever Nekomata is on the field or in combat and there's only one enemy left, Nekomata's personal energy regeneration is increased by 25%. Now, truth be told, the Nekomata's Mindscapes are pretty cool. However, it's now time we talk about the recommendations, as we will be taking into consideration both the character and their Mindscapes as a whole. With this, let's now take a closer look at which standard agents or Mindscapes I'd recommend more realistically. The first agent at the top of this list should still be a given, and that is of course once again going to be Rina. Rina is fantastic since she's an excellent pick for anyone who doesn't already have her, and she's especially useful for players with a broad lineup of characters, as she provides buffs, activates additional abilities, and can also provide electric anomaly to an extent as well. Overall, through her kit, she provides some of the highest value among the standard characters, and that's not even addressing the power she has with electric focused teams as well. Taking the second spot is Lycon, a Daze agent with great utility and a pretty straightforward kit, and Lycon is a fantastic pick for players who have an ice DPS like Hugo, Ellen, or Miyabi, as his core skill provides powerful ice debuffs that greatly enhance the team's damage. Now, of course, however, you do need to keep in mind that this is in addition to the stun damage multiplier and the great Daze that's already present in his kit. But next we have to talk about Kaleda. Kaleda has earned her spot at number 3 thanks to her reliability and impact as a stun agent, and it's true, she's one of the fastest stunners while also being very consistent when it comes to building up Daze. And now while this does make her a valuable asset alongside attack/stun focused agents, Kaleda also brings team-wide utility with her chain attack debuff. As a whole, Kaleda does have specific scenarios where she shines, but because of her chain attack debuff being pretty niche and less valuable than other supports, it leaves her in 3rd place. For 4th, we have Grace, and of course she is definitely a strong electro DPS who specifically excels at applying mediocre damage, but also applying anomaly at a fast pace. With this, however, her main focus is just applying shock so that she can later activate disorder, but in truth, the value of a pick like Grace is very questionable, as she really only feels playable if you have characters like Miyabi or Vivian to enhance her performance. Soldier 11 takes the 5th spot as a dependable fire DPS on the banner, and while she can dish out solid burst damage in certain situations, her overall performance has become noticeably less impressive, especially following Evelyn's release. That said, Soldier 11 is still capable of clearing or performing when necessary, and she can definitely still deliver respectable results if you know how to optimize her effectively. However, since the average player may find it difficult to maximize her potential, or they may choose to just play the game casually, she's generally a less recommended pick compared to other available DPS options. Still, this isn't always a straightforward decision, as Soldier 11 remains as one of only 2 dedicated fire DPS currently available in the game. Nekomata is the last on this list, and it's primarily because of her more niche role and comparatively limited utility in a variety of team compositions. While Neko does have a unique skill set focused on burst damage, her effectiveness often depends on who you have with her in order to set her up, which can make her less flexible than other standard agents. Additionally, her playstyle may require more precise timing and positioning, making her a bit less accessible for newer players. Speaking broadly, however, she can shine in the right hands and when fighting against certain physical weak bosses, but as always, this isn't to say that she can't clear, it just means that she suffers more. That wraps up my updated picks and recommendations for the standard S-Rank Selector as we approach ZenlessZoneZero's 2.0 update. With new agents on the horizon, balance changes coming, and even more endgame content to clear, making the right choice, whether it's unlocking a new team synergy or enhancing an agent with a key Mindscape, has never been more important. At the end of the day, your selection should align not just with what your roster lacks, but also the direction you want to take with your account going forward. And as a result, me personally, I would definitely probably pick either Lycon or Rena, just given how much value these 2 characters have. But as always, guys, you should feel free to choose whatever you'd like. Thanks again for watching. I hope you guys learned something. If you did, like and subscribe, and leave a comment letting me know what you thought of the video or what you plan on doing for 2.0. Thanks again for watching though. I'll see you all next time. Stay safe, stay healthy. Good night.